Moving on in the solar and storage tech, we're circling back a little bit into the solar part because we heard about all these deployment targets. And when I was young, there was still a unit called kilowatts that seems to have ceased to exist. So now it's either megawatt or ideally gigawatts. And what everyone is always assuming that if you deploy a gigawatt, it will always be a gigawatt. Whereas in fact, it's not. There's a degradation, and in many cases, and you will hear see some shocking numbers soon, it's probably not nowhere near where your initial capacity was at. And we are hearing now from Dr. André Nobre about the PV doctor, how to get assets back on track, how to do smart operation and maintenance to maximize returns of solar systems. André is head of the Smart O&M group at SERIS and also co-founder of the PV Doctor. Please.
For the introduction, let's start with interaction here with the audience a bit. A show of hands if you live in a landed property. It doesn't need to be in Singapore. Some of you are out of town and you have a PV system. Okay. This kind of confirms the statistics in Singapore. Only 5% of houses have solar systems. Lots of room for improvement. And Prof. Andrew was saying earlier that 50% already or in Australia. So let's divide solar systems into 5 categories. Residential, not a lot of hands. Educational systems, I want you to think about your children, where they study. If they study in a polytechnic, or if they study in a school in Singapore, a primary school or secondary school, or university, check on your Google Earth map and see if you find solar systems there. So lots of systems in educational institutions. Third category, commercial sites. So next time you go to Changi Airport or you go to Vivo City, check the map, you're going to find a lot of solar systems out there. Fourth category, industrial systems. If you work in a factory in Tuas, you most likely have a solar system on your rooftop. If you don't, you're losing out because solar is the cheapest form of electricity. And finally, the fifth category, you have solar farms. Show of hands, who here in the audience manage assets which are solar farms? Okay, so you should look for me after the talk. But the residential guys, you will see that you're also a target. So the image out there is not so great. There are lots of reports, and this is one of the reports from Raptor Maps indicating underperformance of solar systems in the field. And I've seen horrors out there in terms of performance. So a lot of room for improvement. Secondly, a lot of people think PV does not need maintenance or little amount of maintenance. And I always tell them about aircon. Do you maintain your aircon? You do, because you want to enjoy, and you do it 3 times a year. So you also have to do that for solar systems. So we can subdivide solar systems here in this first slide of mine into 2 categories. Healthy systems, right? And you want to keep them healthy, or we call them sick systems. So you need to rectify them and to promote improvements. And this monitoring is from a house in Singapore. And a friend of mine is the owner of the house. And when I got the data, lots of blanks. So how is the solar system performance? We don't know. So solar systems can be subdivided in 3 categories. I call the first category abandoned systems. This house is an abandoned system. 5 years, no one was checking what was going on. Partially monitored systems. We have systems where I interviewed the owner and they say, I check the system once a month or once a week. And I always tell them, this is not enough. The sun shines every day. Sun shines Saturday and Sunday. Sun shines during public holiday as well, right? And finally, the developers out there, you would like to think that your solar systems are fully monitored. And you have a team, you have an O&M team. And I was part of an O&M team taking care of hundreds of assets. But you know what? My engineers, they got sick, they had sick days, right? And then you hope that someone else is picking up the shortfall of someone not being there or someone falling asleep, right? So even the fully monitored systems need care. So the healthy system, sometimes it's by sheer luck, as the residential system showed. 5 years, no one knew what was going on. And underperforming systems, lots of times they're kept running. I see a system, we tell the client your system is underperforming, and they're like, okay, thanks for telling me. No action, right? So we need someone to grab the client by the hand and promote the improvement, might be from 50 to 60%, because the system, 60% performance ratio might be the best it can get, but 60% is still a lot better than 50%. This graph is from Germany, from the 90s and then in the early 2000s, of performance progression. And how was this achieved? Because equipment got better, panels got better, inverter efficiency used to be 91, 92, 93%. Some of us here are old enough in PV, we remember some of the old efficiencies, and now it's fantastic, right? 99. So that's how performance started to climb in a place like Germany, and this is a paper that was written a decade ago. And last year I wrote the paper for Asia, and the situation was dire. As you can see here, lots of room for improvement, lots of underperformance from the optimum zone. So where is all this electricity going into? Going down the drain. And the job of this new company we founded, PV Doctor, is to promote higher electricity from the solar assets that are already out there. A reminder to some of you that in 2022, humanity crossed the first terawatt of deployed PV. 2022. The entire time of humanity. And then it took only 2 years to go from 1 to 2 terawatt. And now it will take another 2 years to go to 3 and 4 and so on. So you cannot continue to make the mistakes that you see there at the bottom. So PV Doctor, what is PV Doctor in a nutshell? It's an asset performance management company. We are here to boost the performance of your assets out there. So we can do like a doctor would do if you're feeling a bit under the weather, GP consultation. How is your system doing? And do a health check. And then some clients with healthy systems, they say, no, I want to just have an annual health certificate. Help me with that. But if you're doing very poorly, you might need to go to the hospital, right? This is the case of the solar system. We might need to go there on site to figure out what is going on. And you need a cure, rectify the sick patient, in this case, the solar system, give medication for the patient, and perform annual checkups, not once every 5 years, not once every quarter. You need to monitor systems daily. So remember, this is the key word for this talk, is about live and daily monitoring. And this scale here shows if your assets are doing well, right, on the top end of the scale, you just monitor them. And we can do that for you. We monitor your systems daily for you, Saturday, Sunday, public holiday. You know, lots of AI out there to check when people are unavailable. But if you're in the red zone, also look for me, and we can work with you in recovering these assets. Now, that first system, remember I mentioned the system just turned 10 years old in the abandoned category. And this was our first client. Now, the system, every day, there is an email telling what's going on at the site. If the system sneezes, we find out right away. And this first case study, now we have all these graphs that come up every day, like daily generation, monthly. And luckily, SERIS has a network of irradiance sensors across Singapore, so we can calculate the performance long-term because we have a station 1.5 kilometers from this house, so we can figure out what type of degradation the systems are experiencing. And then we can study also the degradation through time in the past 10 years of this asset. And we produce graphs like this, which is we select an optimum zone that we would like that system to be at, and any deviation from that particular corridor there, we will get messages. You name it, Teams, email, WhatsApp. I'd rather get 7, 8 messages and they are all false alarm than not getting the message at all. Because again, the goal is to produce more electricity. And if you want to see, if you want a look and feel of how this data looks like, just write me an email, but I have printouts with me today. Look for me during the coffee break. I can show it to you how this looks like. And this is an example before and after our intervention, right? So this is a client that did not have us in the past, lots of underperformance. Then we came in, we were hired to monitor the system, and now when something happened, we recovered right away. Another client, because not only residential systems, also bigger systems. So this is partially monitored. And now they're being monitored by us daily. And big clients as well, like a pharmaceutical factory in Tuas. They already have an O&M contractor, but nonetheless, the client hired us to be a watchdog or last line of defense, to make sense of the data and to provide early warnings. Singapore, we have already signed up 3% of the asset base. Lots of points here because we got lots of houses. We like to work with houses because they tell us a lot of lessons about PV system performance. And 1.3 gigawatt in Singapore, we plan to reach 20% of clientele by end of next year. Southeast Asia, we have 80 megawatts onboarded already, 300 sites, 8 countries. And this is without going out there, right? Haven't even started traveling and knocking on doors and using the full connections in the field that our team has. The team so far, lots of students, Polytechnic. I like to work with Polytechnic students because they're full-time, lots of undergraduate students, freelancers, but now we are a fully formed private limited entity. So the more business we get, we're going to start getting full-time staff, expanding, and the goal is to reach 1 gigawatt of assets under management by the end of next year. So we're approaching 10%. So this is just to give you a flavor again, of the degradation studies. Somehow the video there is not playing. There is a video. This is also a way of studying the rooftop performance. You know, this site has 21 inverters, so we know when a section of the system is underperforming. Might be soiling, might be just an inverter that has some leakage current issue that keeps tripping the inverter. So we do this in several time horizons to also look at the past performance. So, and this is my final slide. We are onboarding systems for free until Christmas, right? So still final promotion. Look for me. And the 80 megawatts you saw, they're enjoying free services, but soon I'm going to close the promotional tab. So Gavin, pass me some assets for us to have a look. And yeah, but once the services are billable, you're going to see it's a very affordable fraction, below 0.5% of the generation of the asset. Makes a lot of sense. One alarm might pay the service right away. And we have a Netflix-like subscription. So you can sign up. If you're not happy, you can just cancel the subscription. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, don't assume that your assets are as good as on day one. They will never ever be, because there's always degradation and external factors. Are there any burning questions? We probably have time for one burning